Binging series is not really a thing that I do as much since coming onto BookTube, and because of that, I've racked up a list of book series in the fantasy genre that I have not been able to finish in the last few years, and this is my list of the top 10 series that I really want to go back and finish. The thing is, I don't really know when I'm going to be able to finish some of these, but that's okay. One of them I do know that I will potentially be finishing here in the next month, which is very exciting, and I'm ready to pull at least one of these out of the stack. But let's talk about the top 10 series that I am looking forward to finishing on my TBR. The first one is War for the Rose Throne by Peter McLean. I have read 2 of the 4 in this quartet, and they're really not even that long, so I don't have an excuse. This series is very Peaky Blinders, Western European mafia families. Thomas Piety is our main character told in first-person point of view, and Peter McLean is one of the most incredible first-person narrative writers I have read in a long time. He's excellent at it. Thomas Piety is a very vibrant, gritty character. His voice comes through so well in this story. The reason I kind of paused on this series is because I think book 2 ventured into an area that I wasn't feeling as much as I was feeling the first book in this series, so I put it down for a little bit. I still enjoyed it, and I still think that Peter McLean is an amazing writer. So I really want to finish the last 2 books in this series. They're really not that long, and I have both of them on my Kindle. I just haven't delved into it yet because there's so many books that I still need to finish. And I just kind of put it on the back burner for a while. So this is definitely a series that I'm looking forward to being able to finish. Next up is probably the series that I get asked about the most often. It is becoming almost a daily occurrence now where people will ask me, Tori, when are you going to read Iron Gold? Now, for those of you who have been on my channel for longer than 30 seconds, you probably already know that I'm a massive fan of the original Red Rising trilogy. I have been sitting on this series for a while. I read and finished the Red Rising trilogy years ago. Even before coming to BookTube, I had already finished it, already loved it. And then when the second era started coming out, I hesitated because it was kind of like one of those things where you have your favorite film that just means the absolute world to you, and then they announce that they're coming out with a sequel. And there's that trepidation, right, of, is this gonna be good? Is this gonna be as good? Am I gonna love it? Am I gonna hate it? There's that fear, and I just kind of hit paralysis analysis, I think, with this series for a really long time. That being said, in the last few months, I really feel like I'm ready to jump back into this series. I absolutely love it. I am trying to kind of do a reread back up to Iron Gold and then continue with the series, and I'd really like to just be able to binge through all 3 of these books that are out in preparation for Red God, theoretically, next year. And I'm excited. I am actually at a point where I'm getting really excited for this series. I cannot wait to get back with my characters, and I won't name any of them for spoilers' sakes if you haven't gotten this far, but these characters are very near and dear to my heart, and I'm really looking forward to finally jumping into Iron Gold very soon. Next up on my list is The Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. I had to put at least one series on this list that I knew when I was going to be finishing it, because just to make myself feel better. But Long Price Quartet is a very deep, rich character study, and this is the omnibus edition, including all 4 of the books. They are incredibly richly written. The prose is beautiful. It's the type of writing that will make you pause, reread the sentence, and just ponder it for a while, and I love it. I love it so much. It's a little bit slower paced than a lot of the fantasy series I read, but I absolutely love it, and I am going to scream and shout this from the rooftops everywhere because I think it is completely criminally underrated. So for this one, I had a really good thing going for a while. I was reading a book a month, I was doing really well, and then I just kind of put it aside for a couple months, and I think why literally just came down to I didn't want it to end. I am so in awe of this series. It is a beautiful masterwork of fantasy literature, and I know that The Price of Spring is the last time I will ever read a Long Price Quartet book for the first time. And that's really bittersweet. So that is literally my only reason for not having finished this yet. I am going to be finishing it here in the next month. I'm very excited about that, and this series, you guys, I'm going to be talking about it a lot, so y'all buckle up because I am so ready to talk about this series. Next up is a series very close to home, and that is the Collation Saga by my good friend Andrew D. Meredith. I read Deathless Beast last year. I've also read both of his Needle and Leaf series books, Thrice and Fourscored, and the Collation Saga is one that is just such a rich world building experience. Andrew really goes to the absolute furthest degree for his worlds, and he knows so much about all of the detail of these, and it's really inspiring to read that. I'm even more excited to jump into this now because book 3 recently came out, Gloves of Eons, just very recently. I'll put the date here with the book. And so now I have 2 more books in this series to read, and I know that Andrew is currently working on book 4. This is one of those series that is truly an author's magnum opus in life, and I'm very excited to see how it continues and what the series as a whole looks like when we get that far, because Andrew's been working on this world and this story for a very long time, and it really shows and comes through in the writing. Alright, this one I feel a little conflicted on, I'm not gonna lie, and that is the First Law world by Joe Abercrombie. I recently read the entire First Law trilogy and had very mixed feelings on it. I was medium investment in the first book. The second book I thought was a big improvement, had some really cool character arcs in it, and then I got to book 3, and then I got to book 3. That being said, I have heard so many things about the standalones that come after the First Law trilogy and also the subsequent trilogy, The Age of Madness, and I'm definitely going to give those a shot. I think that Abercrombie's writing is very unique, very stylized, very magnetizing. I really like his characterization, so I'm looking forward to giving the series another go as we get into the standalones. I have been told, even though it starts with Best Served Cold, which I will read them in chronological... I can't say the word. I will read them in chronological order, but I've been hearing from several people that love the series that they think that The Heroes is going to be a big favorite of mine within this world, so I'm looking forward to getting to that. The next one is The Greatcoats by Sebastian de Castell. I actually tried book 1 quite a long time ago. I feel like it was even a year, 2 years, probably even 2 years ago, to be honest. And for whatever reason, I read the first few chapters of this book and I just didn't jive with it very well. And I think part of that may have been that I wasn't as well read in the genre as I am now, and I do think that that makes a difference depending on what series you start at what time. I know that this series has a lot of kind of Three Musketeers, swashbuckly, but darker, grittier, brought into the fantasy genre vibes, and I'm really excited to try that again because I have a couple of very good friends who love this series, and I'm really excited to give it another try in the future. The next one is a series that is one of my favorite series of all time, despite the fact that I have not finished it yet, and that of course is Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. Now this series is one of the most vast, incredible series I have ever read. The way that the scope of the story and just the utter vastness of it is brought into kind of a grounded anchor through these incredibly intimate character POVs is just, it's a thing of beauty. This series is an incredible masterpiece of the genre. That being said, it does have a reputation as being one of the most intimidating series in the genre, and a lot of people are afraid to try it. I have thoughts on that. Please go read my Rereading Malazan After 10 Years video because I think that I have a lot of things to say about that. I do think that the series gets an unfair reputation in that direction. And I think that it's going to be different for every person, and it kind of goes back to my earlier comments about coming into series at different points and with different experience within the genre. Anyways, I won't go into that right now because that's not what we're here for. I stopped after House of Chains, which is book 4 in the series, and Midnight Tides, I recently acquired this really beautiful, I think this is the UK edition of Midnight Tides, which is book 5, and I'm really excited to pick up the series again and finally have the experience of getting all the way through the 10 books in Malazan Book of the Fallen, and then moving on to the other books that Stephen has written, and also his co-creator in the Malazan universe, Ian C. Eslamont, who also has a series set in this world. I'm really excited to branch out, to have the Malazan Book of the Fallen experience under my belt so that I can continue on to the other books within the world. So anyways, Malazan is definitely on this list. It has been for a very long time. I'm working on it. Now we're going to take a swerve away from adult epic fantasy into a YA series that I really would like to finish, that has been gaining a lot of traction within even the adult community of fantasy readers lately, and I think rightly so. That is Arc of a Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I actually have been appreciating Neal Shusterman a lot as an author throughout my journey through BookTube, and I read Scythe, which is book 1 in the series, I think a year or two ago. Really enjoyed it. It is a coming-of-age story, and the fantasy concepts, this fantasy sci-fi concepts in here are just really fascinating. It's set in a future where the population has really slowed in its natural mortality cycle because people have found ways to kind of restart their bodies and live forever. Now, naturally, from a population standpoint, this is posing a problem, and so there is a group of people within this society called scythes who at random choose people to basically end their lives, and that keeps the population shifting, changing, and ending at the rate that it is quote-unquote supposed to. Now, what could possibly go wrong with a system like this? That's for you to find out in the series. I really liked book 1. I thought that the main characters are actually pretty compelling, and I was very excited to continue on with the series, and I just got distracted and read other things. This is a series that I would definitely like to go back to. It reads very quickly. As you can see, I had already started the first few pages of it. I don't even remember when. And I'm looking forward to finishing it at some point soon. Next up is that I would really like to continue my journey through Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb with the Live Ship Traders, which is the second trilogy within the Realm of the Elderlings. There's a lot of books in the series, and I had read the Farseer trilogy, I think a couple years ago, even maybe 3 years ago when I first started BookTube. Really loved Robin Hobb's writing, and I think the impact of this series didn't really make itself known until I'd been away from it for a little while and then started talking about it again and tried picking up the series again, and I immediately was hit by this emotional nostalgia that I didn't even realize I had for these characters. And it was really beautiful, and that is an experience I would really like to continue. Live Ship Traders, I've heard, is amazing. A lot of people think that I'm going to absolutely love it, and I can't wait to find out if they are correct. Hobb is an amazing writer in so many ways. I think she does emotional investment over slow burn fantasy incredibly well, and I'm looking forward to jumping back into the next trilogy. The last one on this list is one that I actually haven't heard talked about that much, and maybe there's a reason for that, but I am very excited to try to finish it at some point. And I'm not actually sure how many books are in this series. There's quite a few, at least 5 or 6. This is a series that I started ages ago, and it is about, from what I remember, a young woman who is raised in a fantasy world, but she's raised on the outskirts of the political goings-on of the kingdom with a pack of wolves. She is raised as a wolf. She can communicate with them. It's kind of a Jungle Book situation a little bit, where you have this child that is raised with a pack of wolves and really does not understand human society and her place in it at all, and she's dragged into the politics going on in the kingdom once she is discovered, and it's just kind of a mess. There's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of tension between these different royal families, and Firekeeper is just kind of thrown into the middle of it. I actually really liked this book back when I read it, and I'm excited to continue the series. I did pick up Wolf's Head, Wolf's Heart, which is, I think, book 2, and I have not read this one yet. I only got as far as the first book, but I really enjoyed it, so I'm gonna give it another shot and see if I want to continue on in the series, because I had a good time with it. when I read it before. Those are my top 10. I want to finish these series on my TBR. I actually had a really fun time pulling these because it was kind of like taking a little trip back down memory lane, and it was a good reminder that I have lost a lot of the binge factor as I've gone further into my journey on BookTube, which has pros and cons for sure. I've been able to try a lot of new artists, which is really cool. But I'm really looking forward to going back in the near future and finishing some of these series and being able to talk about the story as a whole. I would love for you to go down in the comments below and let me know what series on your bookshelves needs some TLC, some series that you got distracted from or put on the back burner or just have been dying to get back to. Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I look forward to chatting with you down in the comments. Have a great week, read some 5-star reads, and I'll see you in the next video.